We all come up against this at some point, and then later we'll come up against it again as long as we keep growing. This came up as a question for a female fitness business entrepreneurs panel that I was a part of at a recent conference. So you may recognize Lindsay Bastola, the previous editor of PFP magazine for about 10 years. Now, I don't know how long it's been since she was in that capacity. It's been a while. And I know I've said this before, but I don't know if you feel like with the pandemic, I just feel like there's just this black hole of time anymore. And if I say it's 5 years, it very well could be 8. It's just, so I won't say. How's that? But I do remember it's been quite some time since she was the editor. However, if that name feels familiar, she's spoken a lot in the industry. She's had a lot of opportunities and invitations because of that position, and she's very well connected. She was on the panel, and then a young woman that neither of us recognized. And by the way, when I say we recognize, because as if we were cohorts and colleagues, and we had met before because everybody's met Lindsay. She's everywhere. So whether it was at a MedFit conference where I was presenting and maybe she also was, or whether it was at an SCW conference where we were both presenting, or a club industry kickoff event. I have no idea. And it could have been all of the above. It may have been CanFit Pro, but all of those things. We knew each other. She knew me. That was a bigger deal than me knowing her, because I think you potentially will recognize. The third woman was Alexis Perkins, and that is her married name, I believe, is Powell. But she started Chair One Fitness as Alexis Perkins. So I think she uses that name professionally. So those were the three of us on a panel, women in business. And we each came with different areas of expertise and background in what we've done. So Alexis developed Chair One Fitness, and you should look this up. You can follow her online, and she's just contagious with energy and enthusiasm. And you wonder, how could any 30-year-old know what they're doing? And then you start watching her and you're just like, well, of course she's successful. I mean, I can see it. I can see why. She's magnetic. And I believe she's, what would I call, fierce, ferocious, fearless. And sometimes I think being naive in the beginning about what it's going to take and what trials you'll go through, not knowing, is a really good thing. I heard someone else talk about this as an entrepreneur. Had they known everything that would happen, how hard it would be, the things they'd go through, they might not ever have done it. Right. And I could say that too. Maybe, if I'd had, no, in a year, you're going to have to sell your house and you're going to have to leave the state and you're going to have to, and during all that, other life things will happen. I will talk more about that in this coming month. I'm just sharing a little bit more behind the scenes and personally what it's been like to build a business, because I'm giving you lots of marketing tools here at this podcast. I give you lots of sales strategies and techniques, ways to market and create rapport and do it in a way that you feel good about. And of course, we use the words often, or have, not sleazy, salesy, or pushy, but just you, not feeling like you're putting on a mask. But I'm sharing a little bit more of behind the scenes, like as I was building Flipping 50 and all along the consulting work and the coaching work that I've done with both private clients and with gym owners and managers, to grow their team, their personal training department. All of that, still your own life is happening at the same time. And there have been tragedies midway in building my business. I mean, and actually it kicked off with that midlife crisis, which now that I look back about it, and it's like the lessons of the universe just show up. You actually create a huge change, then you get more changes that have to come with us. it's like the universe says, some of these old things and old people that you have in your life can't go with you on this new thing that you're doing. So just know that that's coming up. But this question came up, and it's like, there was in amidst a room of mostly, this is a functional aging institute summit. So functional aging summit in Salt Lake City. A young woman in the audience, probably one of the youngest attendees would be my estimation. She was potentially 19 to 21 at most, and just a baby face, which, to her asking the question, I can see why she potentially has that herself. And that's a big piece of what I'm going to address here. So let's say you're a fitness pro, you're pitching a group of doctors or businessmen. I don't care how old you are. Do you think the same kind of question hasn't happened to you before? I mean, to women of any age. So granted, the gap that she was looking at is she's serving older adults. She's working with older adults. That's her desired market. She wants to do that. And yet, she's got this baby face of a 13 or 14-year-old. And, she's a year into it, probably just recently certified and getting started. So there's a lot going on here, but I think any one of us can still feel like we're not being taken seriously. Like you go to a doctor, or you're maybe in your tennis shoes and your tights, and depending on how you dress, and maybe definitely right, people don't take you seriously because, I think you dress appropriate for the environment you're in. If you're pitching a group of businessmen, even if you'd say this is your brand, this is your signature color, you might not want to wear your yellow tennis shoes and your turquoise top and black tights. Definitely your crop top, and high-waisted tights are not the thing probably to wear to that business meeting. Although if you're leading fitness, most definitely you should be in that identifiable brand. So you've got to decide, what am I doing? Am I talking about the business of doing this and the benefit to them? Or am I talking about the actual thing and doing the thing? So no matter whether you're younger, you're older, or in fact, this, I think, is going to be helpful to a young woman in any industry. So feel free to share this. We need to have each other's backs. Women need to have each other's backs. And the way we do it is by sharing things that you have already been through. So if you can identify with this and feel like, yeah, this is me, realize that there are a lot of young women who might want to hear this, even though they don't have the question yet. So this too is the value of a coach, having a coach or a mastermind, so you can surround yourself in a safe place with people you can confide in and say, look, this is going on. So kudos to this young woman who is willing to put up her hand and say, this is what I'm dealing with. I've got clients, I just feel like they're not taking me seriously. And here we are, a panel of 3 women up on the stage. And it was a small, intimate group. So this conference was not big overall, but this room may have had 15 other women in it. But I guarantee you the rest of the women were probably all at least 40, if not many of them in their 50s. So they were seasoned either in life and or in their fitness business, or both. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about being taken seriously at work, the real truth that may be the reason why this bothers you, what it is, and other ways it'll show up, how to handle a gap between you and your customer that may be age, gender, experience level, economic, or social circles, and what to do to create authority with rapport. I'm Deborah Atkinson. You're listening to She Means Fitness Business, and that is a division of Voice for Fitness, my LLC. A Voice for Fitness, we all know you want to be yourself an inspirational example to midlife and older women. And in order to do that, we all need a profitable health and fitness business. Profit, money is power. And a lot of times the problem is a lack of clients. or you're charging too little. You've got lots of clients and lots of time you're putting out there, but you don't have lots of revenue to show for it, or you've backed yourself into a corner. That really makes you feel uncertain about whether you can do this, succeed, sustainably hold on to this. I deserve, I believe you deserve, we all do, consistent, dependable revenue from clients you love. And I know how it feels if you're in this place where I want to, I have the knowledge, I can help, I just don't know how to get some leverage. And that's why I train fitness pros internationally. And stay tuned to the end of this episode because I have an opportunity for you to get started. Usually one-on-one, I work with people by first starting with a call. You can book one with me. And the way that works is 3 steps. I get you more clients first right away. We focus on what that takes. Number 2, we make sure that that is creating more profit for you because just money that's just barely covering your expenses, not good. And then we want to make sure we're creating freedom. So we make sure we're not painting you into a corner of exchanging that dollar per hour and that you have to work constantly in order to get this. So you can book a call with me for one-on-one. In the meantime, get the health and fitness business scorecard so you can assess for yourself and stop feeling like that dream of being a health fitness coach and making great revenue is slipping away while you're watching other quote unquote influencers get more clients. And you could start very easily adding $5,000 more a month to your bottom line. If you're already way there and this doesn't sound like a lot, increasing your revenue by 25% by the end of the year is a small goal. And we want to blow that out of the water. You should be able to double it or 10x it very soon. All right, let's dive into this episode. So first, what's the real truth about why this bothers you if you feel like you're not being taken seriously? So this is hindsight. And I actually came away from this weekend. We did the panel Friday afternoon. I had a long travel day, delay on Saturday. And Sunday, I'm going for this hike. And I realized, darn, I wish I would have answered that in another way. But one of the reasons that I think this happens, and what I did answer and say respectfully, and I say this gently, but I think sometimes when there is something that bothers us, the reason it really bothers us, whether it's being said or it's just a feeling you have, a feeling or a vibe from someone, the reason it really bothers us is that for us, there's a degree of truth to it. Maybe we are not quite taking ourselves seriously. We feel a little like imposters, like, I don't know if I really belong here, if I should really be doing this, if I'm really prepared to do this, if I'm really ready to do this. And, I go back to something I don't love about being a subject matter expert, which means writing the test items for medical exercise specialist certifications, health coach certifications, and personal trainer certifications through ACE. What we're instructed with at the beginning of sessions is, remember that you're just trying to create questions that are going to qualify somebody to enter the field, the minimum viable knowledge. In other words, don't make the questions too hard. But you're as qualified as anyone else if you pass that test. We've got to remind ourselves of that. And you're starting at the bottom, you're fresh. But what you have to think about is the value and what do people really need? And after 40 years of doing this, what they really need is the basics. Right? You don't need 45 other exercises or 45 other ways to use a medicine ball, resistor ball, or battle ropes. You don't have to know every single tool and toy to use. That's not where fitness comes from. It comes from doing the very basics, the very best you possibly can with great form consistently. So you need to know how to do exercises safely for major muscle groups. You need to know how to structure them. You need to know then how to coach and get compliance, because that is our biggest problem. If you can crack that one, you can probably first year out of the gate do far better than anybody else. So, I think we all just doubt ourselves a little bit. But why does this show up? It shows up, and it's not just for, say, a first year trainer, second year trainer, or someone who I bought a studio and I don't know what the bleep I'm doing. Like, I've never really run a business. And you may find, in fact, Alexis Perkins on stage admitted, I'll buy this studio because somebody else was going out of business and it was just going to close. And she's like, yeah, sure, I'll bet. And she's like, and then I was like, I don't like running a business. Like, I don't want people calling me and saying, we're out of toilet paper. We need more. Are you going to bring some? Or, this needs fixing and that needs fixing. We have to call the plumber. We need to do this. She's like, I started spending my time doing that kind of thing instead of actually creating the programs and teaching the programs to the customers or to trainers. She's like, suddenly I'm like, I don't want to own a studio. And you may find that by trial and error, but every time you try something new or you grow from where you first are and starting that first very comfortable thing that you're used to doing and maybe try to scale that, and then you do something you've never done before, you may feel this. It's known as imposter syndrome. And that is just like, I feel like I shouldn't be here. And that is one of the laws that commonly we will all go through. And this one doesn't matter if you're man or male or female or you're older or younger. We can all experience this at any moment in time. And it's important to realize it's actually a part of growth. You continue to grow only by putting yourself around people who are more experienced, smarter. They are maybe smarter because of their experience. So I mean, school of hard knocks a lot of times, not just people who have legal degrees or tax and accountant experts. You're not, I mean, you may feel like you're the dumbest person in the room if you are around a bunch of accountants and legal experts talking about those parts and aspects of your business. But, is that imposter syndrome, and whatever you label it, those feelings are always going to be true. If you're stretching, you're learning things you don't know. I mean, we love things we're good at and we shy away from things we're not. And anything you do for the first time, you're really not good at. You may accidentally get it right, but that's not repeatable, sustainable, predictable. You have to know consciously and then make it so well known to you that you do the right thing unconsciously, right? There's 4 steps to learning. You're just unconscious and incompetent. You have no clue it could be better. And then you're consciously incompetent. You realize, I'm not doing it as well as other people are. There's a different way, but I certainly don't know what it is. And then you are unconsciously competent. Like, you begin to do it right. That is a dangerous place right there. Do you know that? If you are like, I've had lots of luck, I've been successful, I've been in business for a long time. I know I'm talking like a valley girl. I'm doing that on purpose because I think I do it. I've done it. You do it most likely somewhere in your life. You're just like, yeah, I'm doing this and it's really working. And I'm like, yeah, is it? Predictable, consistent. You could teach somebody else to do it exactly the way you've done it and get the exact same result. That's really the definition of it being, something that is a system and a methodology, a strategy that works. That is where you have gold. But if you get to the point where, yes, you have that, then you have to be much more conscious competence, right? And I think the better place is unconscious competence that goes beyond it to the next level. Like, meaning you don't have to think about it, but it does happen. It's just all you know is the right way because you've done it that way for so long. So in that, I just gave you like the 5th layer. So that 3rd layer is just unconscious competence, like accidentally you get it right. But then you go to conscious competence. Like I know exactly what I'm doing and this is the exact right thing in the actions. But then you go the one more to this is just the right thing and I do it right all the time. So I don't even have to think about it. It's just automatic. And I think that's where we all really strive to get when you're able to automate things and put them on kind of autopilot. But we're all going to have this. So the last two things I want to point out again. One, the real reason is there's a degree of truth. Maybe you aren't taking yourself seriously, right? And we all doubt ourselves somewhat in we've got this conditioning in our background like who do you think you are like to do this. We've all heard that. And maybe, parenting has taught you, I mean, don't do that. Don't toot your own horn kind of thing. And if you heard that a lot growing up, it may be hard for you to market yourself, promote yourself. So realize this is about personal growth that you may need to do and go through and deal with those things in order for you to get better at marketing and break through that. And then realizing this is just a way that it's going to show up through your whole life. And every time you go bigger, I mean, if you've made your first goal may have been to make $5,000 a month. Maybe the next goal you heard me was to make $5,000 more a month. And I realized for some of you, just making $5,000 a month would be like, yes, please. I need to get to that part. You have 0 on your email list. You get to 100. You're cheering up and down, right? But then you're like, no, I want 10,000 and then I want 50,000 and then I want to break 100,000 on my email list and keep them there, right? Nurture them. They're always going to be there. And that means you send an email and you're going to make sales if you've really connected with your audience and you know what they want and they got there because they want that from you. But all those things, every time you're going to grow like that, you're going to need a different coach. You're going to need to be in a different group. You are going to need to hang out with different people. You better look around yourself right now. Who do you hang out with? And, we just hosted an online summit in May. I say we, collectively, my team helped. So it's Flipping 50, the doing business as Flipping 50 side of our business. And that's huge growth. And I'm talking to people with huge lists who were guests and, they're friends. They're people now that we're texting back and forth, right? But when you go into that, you start to feel like, wow, I can't believe she's texting me. She's asking me a question. She just sent me a voice message. Like we're friends. And, we are. And that is, a place where you're like, at first, it's always like, do I belong here? Right. And you're always going to kind of say, here I am. The first time you're a small fish in a bigger pond and you have to keep putting yourself in that. So a mentor that I had for a very long time told me that one day when I walked into a new mastermind group, and this has been 7 years ago, I think. And at that point, the mastermind was maybe 25 people in that room. And I just looked around at New York Times bestselling authors multiple times. I looked around and I knew the people in this room were, easily making 100K a month, 200K, depending on, what their vocation was. Were they professionals? Were they doctors, PAs, and where were they? And I was just like, and the mentor was standing at the door and I said, have you ever felt like a really small fish in a really big pond? And she's like, all the time. She said, I put myself in those circumstances so that I can grow. I always want to be the dumbest person in the room, the least experienced in the room. So you're in the right place. Come on in, find a seat. And, I remember that ever since. Obviously, I'm telling you this story, but I realized that was after 30 years in business, very successfully having flown all over the world to be an international fitness presenter, being picked by the peers in the industry to present to their audiences. So you're going to get there again. And every time I'm thinking right now, honestly, I am struggling. It's like I have cement on my feet. I'm in a certain group and I feel like this group I'm just staying in because it's comfortable. And oh my gosh, I've just said this out loud for the first time. You heard it here. Please, when you see me next year, say, how's that new group going? Because that's what I need right now. And I don't want to leave this group because a lot of friendships and business colleagues are in it, but it's time for me to do that. And you will find that you've got to take a stretch. Number one, financially committing to a new group that will make you hit your numbers. If you don't have a stretch like that, when I first said, I'm paying $20,000 a year to get into this first mastermind that I went into, I was like, I don't know if I should do that or not do that. That sounds crazy. I literally applied, I filled it in, and then I had to skip a session of the conference I was at. And I just went to the pool and I called a good friend and I just said, I either did just the best thing or the craziest thing in my life. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I'm more scared they will accept me or reject me. I don't know. And of course, they did accept me. And then I was like, oh my gosh, here we go. We're on this ride. But I just knew I had to be around those people. I had to learn and just open my ears and my eyes and realize what don't I have. It's why I created the business scorecard. It's in the show notes, every single episode. So I want you to go and get it. And you can assess your own business. I created it based on these are the things I had to have in place. You don't need everything, but you need these things. And if you don't have it and you're out there posting every day, and what do I post on Reels? Seriously? No. You better have the other things in the back end in place and just be loving Reels and calling that fun. But you've already done the other things that are actually making you money. Because, being very popular on TikTok and doing Reels does not create an audience and a business that's predictable and sustainable. I know it's heady and it's a little ego driven, and people are asking you behind the scenes, promote our thing. We want you to be an ambassador. We love your. Nobody legit contacts you that way, by the way. I know, right? It's like people keep contacting me. They want to send me things, but it's just a time, excuse my French, right? It's just a time suck. Literally, somebody sent me, I don't know how much it is, but it's a 90-pound bike. It's an exercise bike desk. And they sent it to me, and it's waiting outside my door when I get back from this conference on Saturday. And I'm like, lucky for you, this is still here. I mean, I live in a kind of a hidden area. and if somebody knew about this, they could have just come and got it because it's very quiet back here. But realize you will be an imposter and feel like one throughout. All right, let's go on. How do you handle a gap between you and your customer? Whether it's age or it's demographic, let's say you're a woman and you're working with men. That sometimes can be a gap. Like they think you won't get it. What if you're always been a fitness professional and you're working with a doctor, you're working with a lawyer, or you're working with someone who's got a real estate business in 5 states, 3 different regions, and you're feeling like, oh, they know so much more. They're so much more worldly, than me. This could happen for you. Experience level. And what I mean here is life experience, right? So, economic or social circles. Maybe, the social circles that you fly in, that you were raised in, were very different than who it is you're serving. And you just may feel like, I don't understand their lifestyle at all. Like, traveling to Europe regularly, private jets and, this and that and the other thing. And that is just not your life. You could feel this and there could be a gap. But I think the biggest place where I would suggest you're going to experience is, number one, you say you are a coach and you're coaching somebody who is, you're female and you're coaching a male. You are, maybe you're older and coaching a young athlete. That also could be it. But more often than not, it is probably like our friend in the conference, a younger person who is coaching an older adult. And that is probably where you're going to experience most, but it can happen elsewhere. So just realize that, and you're not alone if it has. So, how do you handle that gap? And here's what I wish I would have said to our friend at the conference and did not. I think we gave her a lot of good advice, but this is what I would have said. And you can almost quote me and fill in the blanks in what works for you. Transparency, I think, about the elephant in the room is always the best thing. You bring it up first, and you can apply this to anything where it's something on a program. Someone often will, number one, challenge me on the way I put together a very pivotal program that is one of our best sellers. That is, this is the first step that someone should take with me, a first 12-week step. So where they really get some coaching, they really get some good experience in strength training under their belt, and hopefully they never look back and they never ever stop training again. But they question why I do it the way I do it. And there are some certain things built into this program that are unlike others, and they don't like it. And they give me some pushback. Are you kidding me? They say. And I say, I'm so glad you asked. And here's why I do it. And I'm transparent about that up front. It's in the product page. It's in the sales page. I create videos on it. When I do Q&As, if somebody doesn't ask about this, I tell them about it. It's on the FAQs on the page. We are upfront about it. It's actually one of my distinguishing features, and there is a reason I do it. But I also think here in this case, when, say, you're 22, you're 25, or you're 30, you have young babies, and you are trying to pull in, women who are 55 and who are 60 and say, I can train you. I'm the coach. You're pulling in somebody who's 65 or 70, and by the way, many older adults actually love to be around younger coaches and trainers. They thrive in it. They love their enthusiasm and they want to catch that. So it's not a bad thing for a lot of people, but you will find people wonder, like, do you really know what you're doing? How do you know what it's like? Because you don't have the life experience. So the way I would handle that is say, look, before we get started and before I suggest to you what I think would be the best path for you, I want to address this. So the elephant in the room that you might be asking is, how could you help me? I'm 22 and you're 71, or whatever. And that is a great question. I would be asking that too. But here's why. And you tell them your assets. You tell them, because I'm going to be on my toes. I obviously haven't gone through menopause. I haven't gotten an osteoporosis diagnosis. I haven't, been 70 yet. And because of that, I'm going to work a little bit harder than the next person. So I do have the knowledge, the physiology, and the kinesiology, and I am hungry and thirsty for more knowledge that I seek on a regular basis. And what I want for you to feel is that every decision that we make about your exercise, from the warm up to the cool down, is based on what it is you need right now to get to where it is that you want to go. It's not based on something generic, but exactly on what you want to need. And that if you ever question any exercise, you question any sequence, you question what I ask you to do outside to stay active and compliant between sessions, I want you to ask. And if you feel that you've got doubts about my decision making, I want you to challenge me, because I'm not choosing anything on a whim for you. I will have a reason we're doing everything in the way that we're doing it. And I welcome those questions. That will help me be a better communicator for you and for everyone else that I work with for the rest of my career. I am just getting started. We all have to start somewhere. And I'm planning to be here for a very long time. But if you ever have doubts about whether I'm the trainer for you, or you're finding you're not feeling better, you're not getting results, you don't feel like you're in good hands, I want you to be open and honest with me. If we don't find a resolution, I will find a better trainer for you and refer you. How does that feel for you? So you've been extremely transparent about their doubts, and you have been ahead of them in thinking about it. You have just shown tremendous leadership beyond potentially what a trainer who is 45 or 50 would say. Because let me tell you, by the time we're 45 or 50, if we've been doing it, we have a bit of an ego. We believe, well, what do you mean? You don't trust me, or you don't, right? I mean, I am doing that, and I can, because I've been there. But here's what won't work. And I've had trainers who've worked for me, and they've worked for me coming out of college. They were students, from Iowa State University that had gone through our program. I watched them in their 200, 300, 400 level courses, and then supervised them potentially on their internships, not working for me, but for somewhere else where I'm their internship supervisor. They report, their agency manager reports to me. And then they actually applied, because we're in the same town and they still live there, to work for me afterward. And one of the things that, she would say when she was struggling to get clients or keep clients is, what does she think she's going to do? Like, I have a degree, like I'm certified, and she would say, use that as, this should be justification that she wants to work with me, because I am now credible. I have a degree in this. I have, a certification. And I'm like, nobody cares about that. I mean, you really have to show them how you're taking care of them. They don't care what you know or what alphabet soup you have after your name. And sometimes a lot of people see through that's a little bit more of a, got to collect all the things and the medals and the awards, and certainly got to display them all because of a little self-esteem issue yourself. Have you noticed that some of the most prestigious people in any industry may list 2 things after their name, and that's it, although they could potentially list 27? They don't need to do that. They lead with the leadership, not with the, see what I did, see who I am, see what I know, see my certification, I've got more than you. That really doesn't matter. Show me who you are. Show me your integrity. Show me your decision-making ability. So just show them who you are by a statement like that, and you are way, way ahead of the game. Okay, that was the biggest meat of this whole thing. Is there an elephant in the room? If you feel like you have a gap and you feel maybe yourself, right? A bit of self-doubt. It's not just your client who's sending you this message or your boss, but it is actually also partially true for you. And that's why it bothers us so very much. So in a prior episode, but I'm going to throw this out here, and then I would suggest we'll link to this in the show notes. How do you create authority with rapport? So you do this obviously not by saying, I have a degree, I am certified. No, right? So what you do is you just show that, you demonstrate that by creating a program, by creating understanding of what you're asking them to do, about why they want to do it. That speaks volumes about the knowledge you have, not your degrees, not saying you have a certification. But to create authority with rapport, and you want to do that as opposed to like you just create authority, you could be very condescending. That's not necessarily going to motivate somebody. And it potentially, if you try to put yourself up on a pedestal, too many trainers have made this mistake. And it is that they try to be the hero as opposed to the guide. Like they're a hero because they're prettier, they're thinner, they're better, and it's a lot of it superficial, by the way, when you know behind the scenes really what goes on. Um, but you use a formula called we or it's called I and then we and then you, I, we, you. So you tell a story like, what I've done in the past is assumed that, just getting more exercise, the more exercise, and the harder it is and the more longer that I go, so frequently I try to do it every day and I go harder, I'm going to get better results. I have often thought that throughout my fitness career because we often think more is better, right? It's just partially, depending on where you're listening, this won't fit you, but it's the American way, right? More is better, more of anything. And yet, truthfully, what I learned, accidentally by stumbling through a period in my life where I didn't have time to do more. I had to dedicate that time to something else, like to surviving, right? In a moment in my life when the old things weren't going to work. And again, I think this is maybe some higher power working on my behalf, saying, look, the answer's right in front of you. You cannot get where you're going to go next with the people, with the habits that you've had in the past. And it threw me out of, overtraining, over exercise, threw me into minimal training, minimum viable physical activity. That's what I call MVP in Flipping 50 with our customers. What do you need to do to get all the results and the benefits with none of the fatigue and the adrenal issues, right? So what about you? I mean, do you ever make that mistake? So do you see what I just did if I were talking on stage to a group or if I were talking to one-on-one to a client who's making this mistake? And now I've kind of thrown myself under the bus, with this is a mistake that I made. And, we collectively think, and now I pulled me into their world and I have just likened myself to them. Like I get it because we all tend to do this. It's like a human nature thing. And then brought it to you. Instead of starting with what you're doing is just more exercise, it's making you more tired. So we start with that kind of a lecture. Usually that doesn't go very well. What you get instead when you come charging on is you get their defense, arms crossed. No, I don't get it. I don't believe it. Right. And I get that a lot. I'll share science and somebody will say, I don't believe that. Like, what is it you don't believe? That the report on the science is a lie, that the science was a lie, that those thousands of people didn't have that results? What is it you don't believe? But we often push back. So I hope this is helpful. Taking yourself seriously, right? And realizing that you will constantly in your career, if you continue to grow and not plateau with the level of development that you're getting, you are going to feel an imposter syndrome coming up regularly. And how do you handle it? Be transparent, take care of that elephant in the room, be the one to bring it up. This is what you may be thinking, right? And if they do bring it up first, say, I'm so glad you asked that. I would ask that too. Here's my answer to that, right? So the last tip I want to leave you with on being taken seriously is, think about the people who are the 20% that really matter in your current business, even if it's a small one, the ones who do take you seriously, and then think about 20% are probably the ones who really take you seriously. 80% probably don't, and you're getting business, a lot of business from them. But if you're spending your time and energy on those 80%, that are not giving you much return, what if you flipped that? You just got rid of them, that baggage, and you only focused on the 20% who are giving you great returns so you could attract more of them or you could increase your rates and continue to serve them. And that goes for all activities in your business. But a lot of times we're spending our time beating our heads against the wall, focusing on these people who really don't matter. They're the ones who give you the chargebacks, and they don't even come to you with a complaint or say, I didn't get it. And that is when they go do their chargeback, that's what they say. And it's like, no, you got it. And we can see that you opened the email, in fact, and that you clicked on it. So it's just a time consuming thing. And then it's like, sometimes I just think, but no, I am going to contest this just for the point and the privilege of doing that. And then I'm going to offend you because I don't want you here, period. Right? I mean, that's really kind of where it gets to. So, something I wish I would have known earlier was that dropping a lot of the things that kept me busy, and focused on these negative things would have freed me up to work on the things that truly resulted in higher revenue with more ease. I mean, there's historically been this thing in the fitness industry where you have to run from this to that. I spent a lot of years running from this client to that client to the university to then to the gym to do a meeting for trainers or coach or hire and interview a new trainer or fire one. For too long, fitness professionals were led to believe that that's how fitness industry worked. You should be doing, 5 jobs. In fact, that limited us all. Do we need part-time trainers in the industry, part-time fitness instructors? Absolutely. It's what our industry has survived on. But if a career is your objective, like one that creates a sustainable life that you love and a revenue that is consistent and either predictable or only limited by your ability to create it, you can't play that game of, I'm going to do this and this and this and that. A job, done in tights and sneakers or barefoot that changes lives is no less important than one done in a business suit. That could be probably the mic drop, right? A job that is done in tights, sneakers, or barefoot that changes lives is no less important than one that's done in a business suit. It is just that too many fitness professionals believe that it is less important, even making it sound glamorous, because they get a little hit of dopamine every time they're wanted and featured as an instructor. They make it sounding glamorous that they're going to go off and present at a conference where they may not even be getting paid. And they pay for the flight, or there's a stipend or a hotel room provided, but you have to share a room. I mean, it's pathetic. And, it's only true because there's another trainer that will present like that because it's a big deal. It's going to feel like a status symbol to them if you won't. So the pressure is, well, you're replaceable. But it's just, for me, it's a struggle. Being asked to speak at conferences for free in exchange for the prestige and the exposure. Really, women in the fitness industry asking other women to do this, and men, are just unrealistic. And they're keeping this industry in the dark ages. And yet, feeling like they're a female in business representing females. As soon as you stop playing somebody else's game, you can start winning at your own. If there's a problem that enough customers have and you solve it, you have a business. And you don't have to grow according to the same model as everyone else's. Challenge yourself to look at problems from different angles, to ask and to talk about it with somebody who has been there. You will grow so much faster, feel so much lighter instead of carrying it around, wishing, hoping, and then watching as somebody else does it first. I mean, how many times have you done that? You have said, oh my gosh, I thought of that and I didn't actually do it. I just, because you only thought about it. You didn't speak it out loud. You didn't go through it and say, what would be my first step if I was actually going to do this? We often don't see ourselves the way others see us. Outside voice can help you accelerate your growth or avoid mistakes or both. So If you want to take your business seriously and to the next level, I'm going to throw this out. I want you to take one action, and this just is a first non obligating step. But if an intimate group, a business building coaching, and with like minded women for an influx of paying customers sounds amazing, I want you to consider this. Whether your dream is to sell like high ticket, high touch, or to sell a low ticket app, say to many, you know, if help with any of that and any between sounds like a perfect fit for you, I want you to just let us know that you're interested. We're putting together a small group in an intimate opportunity for female fitness and health coaches, building your business from the first idea to the detailed leadership, the products, the marketing, the sales, and the financial blueprint. You've got to have all of those parts so that you and your business can thrive. It's not an easy task to do alone. What is it? The African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Yeah. I'm kicking off a 6-month training, but we're going to do it with a weekend adventure near the Grand Canyon. So you would be a part of a challenging day of hiking. And by day, I mean like from very early to very late, and you'll want to go to bed when we're done. And getting to know each other and trust each other in the midst of a weekend of training, business evaluation, and planning. And no matter where you are, a team, a dream, an idea, you're solo, or you have a plateaued business, to you want a new revenue stream, or you just want a complete business remodel, let us know. So I will connect with you if you say, this sounds amazing. And what we're trying to do here in bringing you all together at the beginning is, first of all, give us a challenge. Physically, part of the challenge and the piece of it is to kind of let your guard down, get to know other people in the group by hiking. I think some of the best things happen while we're exercising, but hiking is one of the greatest ways to do it. And this will be a challenging hike. You've got to also physically be up for this task and do the training to get there. So there is that caveat. If you're not able to, you simply won't be able to participate in the activity. And this is going to be a piece of really the business building and the relationship trust building that will carry us through the next 6 months as we, pull apart businesses and build your mission and build the leadership statements you have to have so that as you hire a team, even if they begin to be contractors or they stay contractors for you, you have to be able to coach them and give them, here are your responsibilities, and make sure that this is kind of self-managing and you're in it less and less yourself, except to touch base with them, and that you have leadership statements that are said outwardly and those that are said inwardly to yourself or your team. And all of that, is often skipped, and it may sound superficial. I'm not talking about, write your mission statement or your elevator speech, something like that. But what it really does is tells people who you are, and it becomes a part of all things that you promote in your website and in your programs. So I'm going to have you email support@flipping50.com, and I will reach out to you personally. If you email us and say, I am interested in that, I want to know a little bit more about the getting together and the 6 months and what that would look like. But I'd also, if you'd say a little bit about your business and where you are, if it's a dream right now and you don't have one, or you're already like starting into it, or you see a vision, you just don't know how to like really make this go because nobody's holding your feet to the fire, the accountability. So obviously this makes private coaching a whole lot more accessible financially for a lot of people, but there is also power in a group and what you learn from the group and the camaraderie that you feel. You all raise each other up, and you begin it. And most often when you talk to entrepreneurs who've made it, they started with this group of people who all grew together, and they still lean on each other. Like, remember the lean years, remember when I was here, but they're the trustworthy piece of the group. And I want that for you. So our first cohort of this group will occur in the fall of 2023, and then the next in late spring of 2024 with leadership opportunities for those that were in the first group. So a new way to grow, actually. So a new way to come up and say, I will actually want to be a part of that as, a coach or a peer coach or mentor participating, and obviously getting to then grow yourself as well. So the two times we're looking at kind of late fall or mid fall, depending on where you live, right? So October here, and then it will probably be May, potentially June in 2024, but no later than that in the spring cohort. So if you don't want to wait and you want a much more solid launch in early 2024, probably want to talk to us soon, but sooner rather than later, because I do need to know your physical condition before we invite you. All right. Show notes today will be at Flipping 50. I'm sorry. Fitness, that is the danger of having two podcasts. I believe I've said that before. The fitnessmarketingmastery.com/take you seriously. And what are you waiting for? Can't wait to hear from you, especially if you feel like this adventure and a little challenge would be great for you.